It's showtime at Homestead, Miami.
Andre Baranowskis at the line, steals it in the Indy 250.
Logan to Baxter's in trouble, there they go. Gordon to the wall, jumps right around.
Side by side on the final lap, coming to the checkered flag.
Steve Morgan, the last lap pass, and the victory in Las Vegas.
Welcome to the NOFSRL.
Hello everybody, this is Napa Fan here, and this is race number 9 in season number 9 of the NOFSRL Chick-fil-A Cup Series. We are here at the Rockingham Speedway in North Carolina for the Cheerwine 479 laps of action around this 1.017 mile speedway in Rockingham, North Carolina. Pretty simple as that. It's the Rock. And it's always a very strategic race, and Jonathan, we've seen these races in years past, how they've played out. You gotta come in early for tires, but if we get a lot of cautions in this race, how do you think these guys will manage the tire wear around this racetrack?
Well, you see, in this race, I believe that it's going to take a lot of pit strategy. Tire wear is really a struggle with this track. The track may look new, it may look paved, but that surface is really rough. You might see a few pit stops out of these guys, but I think the winner will be based on pit strategy here.
And of course, last year that was the case when Brad Stover beat out Seth Kohler. He came down a couple laps before he did, all the way back from like around the 10th position, and took the race victory away from him. So if we have a long green flag run, that'll be the case, but we haven't seen many cautions lately, and I have a feeling it's a bit of a ticking time bomb for yellow flags here today at the Rock. But Trey, you know very well about this place and Rex before. Your driver had a very interesting one in season number 6, but if we do get a lot of cautions in this race, how do you think these guys are going to manage their position on the racetrack? Will position on the racetrack be more important than tire wear if we get a lot of yellows?
It's definitely, drivers definitely have to find a balance in that, because while the tire wear, they're going to be screaming for tires, as this surface is a lot similar to Darlington's surface, where it just eats up the tires. However, new tires aren't exactly going to help you pass, as passing at Rockingham is extremely difficult. So drivers need to find a balance on when to get tires and when to stay out. I would personally say, unless your tires are shredded to the rim, you're going to want to stay out you're going to want to stay out during a yellow, because track position is the most important factor here at the Rockingham Speedway, as passing is extremely difficult. So, but like you said, the wrecks here, they can get wild. My driver, Al Agassi, in Season 6 of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, he hit a glitch in Turn 3 where it catapulted his car back into the racing groove on the first lap. So hopefully nobody hits that, but wrecks here can get wild. We saw with Carl Long in 2004 in real NASCAR flipping down the back straightaway. So we'll definitely have to see how that all plays out. But as aforementioned, tire wear is extremely important, but so is track position.
And the combination of the two is going to create a very interesting race here today. This other lineup in the championship standings, of course, our last race at Bristol, Alexander Rowe got a pretty decent run, was able to overtake Bradley Ream in the championship standings, so he is our new points leader. 252 points towards the championship for our Daytona 500 champion. Reagan Whitlock only 7 points behind. Then it's Shane Lake 15 points behind, Bradley Ream 21 points behind, and Ryan Durrani 33 points behind, coming into the 9th race of the season. And Zachary Fitzwater in the number 9, going to be starting on the pole position. Fastest time in qualifying yesterday for Beast Racing. He's alongside the 88 machine of Diego Yepes. Beast Racing locking up the front row for this race. In row number 2, it's Alexander Rowe in the number 25, our Daytona 500 champion, and our points leader here in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, alongside the 83 of Samit Ozkin, the Texas winner there on the outside of row 2. Our Auto Club winner, Andrew Miller, will be starting alongside the Cheerwine machine of LJ Sameto. And Trey Barta, who won here the first 2 times the Truck Series came to Rockingham back in the day in 2015. He's alongside Ryan Durrani in the 68. Former points leader Bradley Ream alongside Season 3 champion Cameron Garlington. And I'm going to start with you, Jonathan. Who do you think is going to be in victory lane at the end of the day here at the Rock?
I got my money on that number 9 of Zachary Fitzwater. He fastest lap in qualifying, and he has the motivation to get that 10th.
I agree with Jonathan. Zachary Fitzwater, he's got the team of Beast Racing. He's got the manufacturer, Dodge, who's won the last two Chick-fil-A Cup Series races here at Rockingham. And he's Zachary Fitzwater, the god of NR 2003 himself. He's got the winning trifecta. I think that 9 ends up in victory lane today.
We're gonna have to see how it all shakes out. We're green flag racing at the Rock. The Cheerwine 400 from North Carolina is underway. And Fitzwater wasting no time going to the race lead. Gonna lead at number 1. Alexander Rowe looking for second on Diego Pez. You got Andrew Miller there, and you gotta watch out for the exit of turn 2 here at Rockingham Speedway. That outside wall comes at you fast. Iquan has him in the wall back in there, but they keep it all together. Our defending champion, Nathan Baird, at the back of the field. See a little bit of damage on the number 16 right there. Looks like he might have scraped the wall earlier, but Fitzwater pulling away in the number 9. Has a pretty sizable lead there on our points leader, Alexander Rowe.
Yeah, and I mentioned this in qualifying that turns 1 and 2 are banked slightly different. Meanwhile, there's...
and in the wall, back in there, Nikolai Sykes in the 6,
crash.
into Daniel McMillan, and the yellow will fly for the first time today. That's a tough one for the season 7 Rockingham winner of Daniel McMillan. Fitzwater will win the race back to the line. But it looks like Sykes just overshot the turn 2 wall, and I just mentioned it a lap ago. That wall comes at you fast, and that's exactly what happened there to Nikolai Sykes in the 6, getting into McMillan. Good thing neither of them have massive damage. They should be able to continue in this race, but odds are they're not going to be in victory lane at the end of the day here at Rockingham. Either way, see if these guys come down the pit lane. Zachary Fitzwater in the number 9 will stay out. It's a little bit early on in the race, so no need to come down for fuel or tires. So with that in mind, gonna jump right into the replay, see what happened to bring out the first caution of the day here at the Rockingham Speedway. Well, here it is off of turn number 2. Nikolai Sykes, 3 wide on the outside. I mean, you saw Trey Bartow hit it just a little bit farther up ahead, but Sykes had no room. You got Thomas Trostler that was inside, got clipped into him, and right down on McMillan. McMillan had nowhere to go, and McMillan, you know, he was on that inside lane. I mean, he's won here before, had a shot at possibly winning this thing. Not going to be the case. Been a really tough season for that number 79 team, and McMillan doesn't look like he's going to bounce back here today at the Rock, but thankfully that was all that ensued there. Just those two guys going to the inside wall. I mean, we've seen flips here before. Thankfully, we saw none of that in this wreck here at Rockingham.
As you can see, Nikolai Sykes just gets to the wall, gets turned down to the 35, and bad situation for the 79 of McMillan. Keegan Thompson just narrowly avoiding that wreck there. Looks like they're not going to have too big of damage here, but maybe aero damage is all they'll have.
Yeah, and this is a fast enough racetrack where that will come into effect, so tough break for those guys. See a lot of damage there on McMillan. I think he got the worst of that one. As you see, the left side of that machine is all torn up. But either way, gives us an opportunity to catch our breaths, and the number 9 of Zachary Fitzwater will be leading us to the restart here at the Rock. We're just getting started here this Saturday afternoon in the Cheerwine 400. We're back here at the Rockingham Speedway Cheerwine 400 action here. 9th race of the season in Season 9 of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, and the guy who has 9 wins in this series, driving the number 9, Zachary Fitzwater, is going to be coming to the green flag on lap number 8. My goodness, we were so close to having so many 9s in that sentence, but just a lap too short. But either way, Zachary Fitzwater, the race leader, with Alexander Rowe, our points leader, in 2nd. Diego Pesley restarting 3rd. Andrew Miller in the highest rookie in the field. Bradley Ream in the 40. Salmon Oskin, Mitchell Henderson, Trey Bartow, Ryan Durrani, and the Cheerwine machine of LJ Cemento in the top 10. Everybody still on the lead lap with Nikolai Sykes and Daniel McMillan at the back of the field. And here we go. Alexander Rowe wasting no time, going to the inside of Zachary Fitzwater for the race lead.
That started by Fitzwater there.
Yep, and Alexander Rowe, he's got, ironically, the 88 is helping 25 against his teammate of Fitzwater, so they're to the point. No surprise here, it's Alexander Rowe. And before I was not so rudely interrupted by the caution on the back straightaway, I was going to mention that the turns in 1 and 2 are banked slightly different from turns 3 and 4, so that's why some drivers have a little bit more trouble with the outside wall coming towards them as they come onto the back straightaway than as they go into the front straightaway. And Zachary Fitzwater, he just got hung out to dry. He's on the outside unpreferred line, so he's gonna have a tough time trying to claw his way back up. He's still losing positions.
Yeah, that outside lane is not where you want to be this early on. Now, if the tires get worn, that outside lane tends to work better, but when we still have fresh tires like we do now, he just dropped to the back, and you're seeing what's happening right now to Zachary Fitzwater in the number 9 machine, all the way back now to the 7th position, I do believe. Wait for timing and scoring to update there, and yes, that is where he's at, and he continues to lose positions there as LJ Semedo now moves to the inside of him for the 7th position. Meanwhile, Andrew Miller's gone up to 3rd, Yepes is still 2nd, and Alexander Rowe starting to put a bit of a gap on the 88 machine. They've seen this guy lead pretty much every single race this season, and they don't want him leading anymore. Andrew Miller, though, is going to go to the inside, trying to make a move on Yepes for 2nd. Maybe he'll have something to say for the race leader, Alexander Rowe.
If Miller and Yepes keep fighting here, it's just going to give Rowe a bigger of a gap. I don't think this is what they should be doing this early in the stage of a race.
It's only lap 12 of 79, so they got plenty of time to work their way to the back bumper of Alexander Rowe, but Yepes... great run off the corner there, but Miller looks to clear on the outside, and he will, and we'll have to see if that 24 can close in on the 25 for the race lead. Great run for Bradley Ream, rebounding after what happened to him at Bristol a couple weeks ago. That was a tough break for him in that race, and lost the 1 points lead. Actually fell all the way back to 4th in the points, but the guy who's leading the points is now ahead of him on the racetrack, so not exactly what you want this early on in the race, but Pez going to get lost here on the outside lane to Bradley Ream, and Ream going to go for the 3rd position on the 88.
Yeah, you gotta wonder. Both Beast Racing cars fell back at the start of this race. You gotta wonder if it's something with the team setup, or if it's just something wrong with the cars, or if they're just not in the right mindset right now.
Yeah, they might not have had the best setup for the race. They had a good setup for qualifying, obviously, but maybe not for the race. Miller really got hung up there, and Ream trying to get to the outside of him. That opened the door for Yepes to move to the inside for the 3rd position. Go back through the field, see who's popping back in here. You got Trey Barker falling back a little bit, but Mitchell Henderson inside the top 10. Nathan Faden, great run for him. And Cameron Garlison looking to back up his really strong run at Bristol. Just outside the top 10 at the moment. Brad Stover, last winner here at Rockingham. Won this race a year ago. We got 3 wide there, and Bartow stuck on the outside lanes. Got to be careful not to bounce back down, but he'll keep it together. Great run there for Faden on the inside lane.
Yeah, and the tires, they are definitely starting to wear. We're definitely starting to see slower lap times, slower speeds. So I expect these guys to come in probably 10 or 15 laps. I'm not entirely sure. I'm no Larry McReynolds there, but the tires are definitely starting to wear off as the drivers are starting to transition more towards the outside lane. As you can see the 4 car just get an absolute slingshot off of 4 on the outside, off of 2 on the outside.
He's really levitating to that outside lane right now, and that is not working out too well for him. I should say gravitating to the outside lane, not levitating. We've seen that before in 2003, so I wouldn't be surprised, but Bartow falling back a lot now. He started up front, but he wore out those tires in those first few laps. And you see Fitzwater all the way down to 14th after starting and leading the first few laps from the 1st position. Meanwhile, go back to the race lead, and Alexander Rowe, I mean, he's getting the benefit from these guys battling for 2nd place. Yepes now back to the inside of Andrew Miller. I mean, this battle for 2nd is really heating up. Bradley Ream might even make it 3 wide. But it's going to be interesting to see what the fuel window is here, Rockingham. We got it set to 2X, so I'd imagine it's going to be a one-stop race on fuel for these guys. But it could come down to fuel mileage at the end of the race as well. I mean, we saw it happen in Season 7 with Jesse Turner. That was a tough season for him. We don't want to mention it too much. We want to make sure he's all right. But still, it could happen. We could end up with a fuel mileage race here, and we saw a fuel mileage race at Atlanta. It could happen again here at Rockingham.
Exactly. I was about to bring that up. Atlanta was, if you want a good race on fuel mileage, you got to go back to that one. And you got to wonder if that'll happen here.
Here's Shane Lake in the 15 midway through the field. Ended up winning that race, and he's been really solid the whole season. Currently 3rd in the standings, only 15 behind Alexander Rowe. Reagan Whitlock's the guy who's 7 points behind him. He's also midway through the field in the 92, but a lot of shuffling going on back in here. There's our last race winner. Got the victory at Bristol 2 weeks ago. Wyatt Quayle in the 39. And then you see back through the field there. The last 2 positions occupied by McMillan and Sykes, who were involved in that lap 3 incident on the racetrack. But everyone's still on the lead lap here in the Cheerwine 400, except for McMillan, who's actually a lap down. Had extended pit stop there to repair the damage on the 79. But other than that, the rest of the drivers still on the lead lap here at Rockingham, and they're led by our points leader, Alexander Rowe.
And he has got a heck of a lead over Andrew Miller. Rowe, he's just been flat out unstoppable this season. He's won the Daytona 500. I'm not sure if he won Las Vegas or Phoenix or not.
He won Phoenix.
He won Phoenix.
And since Phoenix, he's been getting a lot of top 10s, and that's why he's in the points lead right now. Of course, Vegas and Auto Club didn't work out the best for him, but since that race victory at Phoenix, he's been one of the most dominant guys. But Miller, now that he's single file, is actually beginning to close in a little bit on the 25 here. We'll have to see if he has a shot at the race lead on our points leader. But Miller, looking for a second win of the season in that number 24 machine, got the race victory at Auto Club. You know, he made that race victory almost on strategy. The way he came down the pit lanes, what won him that race. He just swerved around everyone when the cycle began. Here, you got to come down before everyone else to get an advantage. However, if fuel mileage comes into play, you might not want to do that. So, going to be interesting to see what he pulls off once we get the cycle of pit stops to occur here in the next few laps. But either way, Alexander Rowe looking strong in the 25. So he leads here in the Cheerwine 400.
And the cars have definitely gotten a lot more spread out, so I don't think we're going to see any more yellows anytime soon, so it's definitely going to come down to driver talent and pit strategy. So it's definitely going to be an interesting race on how those drivers drive this track and how the crew chiefs are crunching the numbers on the pit box on how to stretch fuel and how to strategize. So it's definitely going to be an interesting race for both parties. So we'll just have to wait and see how this all plays out. But Miller, it appears from this camera shot that he's closing in on the 25. So the 25 may have used up his stuff on this first run. So he might be having a little bit more tire wear than Miller per se. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Andrew Miller looking to close in. He actually lost a little bit of ground that last lap there. But Miller definitely seems to have a slightly faster race car than Alexander Rowe. I mean, now that he doesn't have anybody side by side with him, which is a good thing for the 24, he's definitely able to close in a lot better, and he's pulled away from Yepes as well, so he's obviously faster than the 88 there. Ream tried to get on Yepes earlier, but couldn't do it. Great run for Ryan Durrani, but one guy who's moving his way through the field very nicely is Nathan Faden. He's gotten around Sam Manowskin, now looking for 5th on Ryan Durrani. The Lost Star Racing looking to get a strong run here at the Rockingham Speedway. Meanwhile, Miller's closing in almost a half a second now on the 25 machine. We saw in yesterday's truck race, those guys really closed in, but it was difficult to make a pass once you got to the back bumper when the tires wore out. We still had a couple of passes for the race lead in that one, but we'll have to see if Miller can get around Alexander Rowe once he gets to him, because he's definitely going to get to him. Now 0.3 of a second for the 24.
He's within the 20. Sorry, Jonathan, you got it.
Miller right on the back bumper of the 25 here. He's going to try peeking out to the high side here.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to get that aerodynamic draft off the 25. The draft actually does work here at Rockingham, so these guys are just he had to check up a little bit there. 24 did, and surprisingly enough, the 88 and the 40 are catching up to these guys. We have a little bit of 4-car battle going on for the lead, and they're about a second or so, a couple seconds in front of these, other guys, 5th on back. So I'd say at this point, it's any of these 4 guys is a race to lose, a race to win.
We saw this in yesterday's Hers Dash Series race as well. We had a guy pull out, and then they closed back in, and it was 4 guys right on each other. We almost had it there for a moment, but they spread out just a little bit. Faden has gotten around for the 5th position. He might have the fastest car on the racetrack right now, because he's really moved his way through the field nicely in this race, and that's a good position to be in as well. I mean, you pull strategy on the rest of the field, you're going to advance your time and advance your positions through the field. Brad Stover was just outside the top 10 not too long ago. He pulled that strategy in last year's race. I would imagine he's kind of in a position to do the same thing again. The only difference is this year the race is much longer, so we'll have to see how that affects the decisions on the pit box for a lot of these guys. Alonso going to tap the outside wall back in. There's their 3 wide. Tristan Allen and Jesse Turner. Barto really fell back. 27th now. He started in the 7th position. He's lost 20 positions since the start of this race in the number 4 machine. Not exactly what Bartow wanted here today. I mean, he started out the season really well and then just fell off the cliff. And he's been falling in the points ever since this long stretch of bad finishes has occurred for him. Tough break for Bartow this season, but still early on in the season, not even halfway through the regular season. We will be, though, once we finish at Talladega next week for the Mountain Dew Kickstart 500.
Talladega's going to be fun for these guys.
Miller's starting to close back in for the race lead. They have shaken off Yepes and Ream from that top position. Now Miller's going to try again on the 25.
I think the main thing he can't do is let out in the middle of the corner because that's how he fell back. So I think if he's going to try and pass him, try and do it on the more bank part in turns 3 and 4, so won't have to let out as much and not lose a run.
Well, he's not necessarily challenging anymore. You gotta think, is he just falling behind to save tires until pit stops, trying to make the move on pit road?
That is possible. So
we're going to have to see how that strategy plays out for these guys and when they're going to come down. Imagine it's going to be soon. Probably going to be just past halfway when they start the cycle. Be my guess. And if that's the case, of course, he will not have an issue with fuel mileage, which is a good thing. Meaning this race will play out, and anything is possible when a race plays out at a place like this. We could still end up with another yellow in this race. I mean, we've seen a couple of guys hit that outside wall a couple of times. I mean, back in here, you're still getting 3 wide situations. There's Mark Davidson on the outside of John Arndt and Nathan Baird. And Davidson going to tap the outside walls a little bit there. And if one of those 3 wide situations goes wrong, we could end up with a caution. And if a caution comes out now, they're going to come down the pit lane, obviously. And that could make it a little bit interesting on fuel mileage. But either way, Alexander Rose led the most laps in this race so far, looking to get that extra bonus point towards the championship. And I have a feeling he's not going to win this race. We saw Seth Cole dominate this race last year, and he ended up getting bested on the pit lane by Brad Stover. But Rowe might just get bested on the racetrack here. A great run off the corner for Miller. He might find a way to the inside, and he will to the inside for the race lead. But that outside lane is strong once the tires wear out. And Rowe will remain out front in the 25 for North State Racing.
Yeah, it's just if he can just get a perfect run into the corner where he can pass him on the outside, I think he might have him cornered there. But he just can't do it. And he's falling back. So the tires are definitely wearing out. You see guys transitioning up to the top, getting a little bit loose off the corner. So I expect them to come down anytime between the next 5 or so laps.
Diego Pez there in the 3rd position. Still in the 3rd position, holding off Bradley Ream right now. Nathan Faden in 5th. Faden about 4 seconds behind. He has lost a little bit of time, but then we got this gaggle of cars back in here. It'll be interesting once the cycle begins, see how these guys come down the pit lane. It's a pretty tight racetrack around here, and someone could make a mistake trying to come down the pit lane. Bradley Ream's got a run for 2nd on Diego Yepes, or should I say for the 3rd position. And Ream's going to take it away from the 88 here. So great run there. We're now officially past halfway, and our first guy coming down, Iquan has him in the back of the field. It does appear he has some damage, though, and that could be why he's coming down now. But I believe the cycle is beginning here. We're going to have to see if anyone else comes down this lap. But anyone who comes down early is going to get that advantage. Sebastian Cucalon and his teammate Brad Stover coming down the pit lane. Now, these guys got to hope a caution doesn't come out now, because if that happens, they're done. They're not going to be able to win this race. But this is exactly what Brad Stover did last year, and Cucalon's ahead of him. Their teammates at Titan Fury Motorsports, they're looking to gain an advantage on our race leaders. Things are going to get interesting here. The cycle has begun just past halfway in the Cheerwine 400.
Garlington's coming down, Faden coming down, and your race leaders are... One of your race leaders, the actual race leader, of Alexander Rowe, he's coming down onto the pit road, so I expect them to get 4 tires filled up with Sunoco fuel. He's coming down. You can see Cucalon behind him. So
Cucalon is going to come off first of the guys who came down the first time around, but Stover's not going to be too far behind him. And looks like the rest of the drivers have come down. You got Andrew Miller there, Bradley Ream, Samet Oskin, Mitchell Henderson, Zachary Fitzwater, Reagan Whitlock, Stapleton, Silas Horton, and John Arndt. I don't think it's going to work out too well for those guys. They stayed out 2 extra laps compared to Cucalon. Cucalon's going to unlap himself here. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and follow and see where Alexander Rowe comes out. As a matter of fact, I don't think Cucalon's unlapping himself right here. I think he's coming around and filing into his position on the racetrack. Got to get around Ryan Arani there and be just behind Nathan Faden, but he's got all the speed. I'd imagine he's going to get around Faden here. But now, these guys are going to significantly improve their speeds on the racetrack. They're going to be going much faster, and you're going to notice it as well if we can get to a car who's actually on the racetrack. But right there, you see Alexander on the 25. Going to win the race off after the cycle has ended. Yepes will gain a position on Miller. And you got Faden and Kukulon back in there as well. Not as much of a difference as what we saw last year. Kukulon gained a lot of ground, but he didn't come close to the race lead. He is going to file in the 5th position, and he is currently 4.28 seconds behind. Not too bad for Kukulon, but that's a lot of ground to make up here in these last few laps. A place that is very difficult to gain on someone and make a pass for the race lead.
He still gained a lot of track position there, coming down as early as he did. I see that as a good move.
He's going to get the draft off of the 12 car here. Going to go to the inside. And I wouldn't count on Kukulon.
Yeah, Kukulon's a guy. I mean, he surprised us at Bristol last year for his first Cup Series win. I mean, he was the only guy who was able to make it to the end of the race in that one. But I think something you got to watch out for in this race as it goes on. Of course, last year is playing out so much like last year's race. The only thing is, this year's race isn't much longer than last year's race was, so will they have enough fuel in the tank? We had those caution laps, but they came down just past halfway. I'd imagine they'd be good to go to the end, but someone like Kukulon or Brad Stover might not be good to go to the end because it came down before everyone else. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do as this race rolls along. They're battling here for 5th. I mean, they got the fresh tires now. They got the opportunity to go fast, and Faden does not want to lose this position to Kukulon. To the inside for 5th once again. He's going to take it right back.
Yeah, but they gotta make sure that they don't use up all of their
stuff. And for the race lead, Yepes was able to close in on Alexander Rowe, and he's got the faster race car now. Yepes will take the race lead on lap 47 just like that. But it's a battle for this top position, and that's going to close in Miller to this race lead. Will Alexander Rowe get a run on the outside? It looks like he will. The more they go side by side, the faster that 24 is going to come. Yepes will clear. New race leader. It's the 88 for Beast Racing.
Yepes back up front, surprising considering he fell back way back early in the race.
I think they adjusted that car, lower the track bar a little bit, put him a little bit more wedge in that car. So I think he's got a little bit better setup than his teammate of Zachary Fitzwater. Fitzwater, I have no idea where he fell back to. But Diego Yepes looking to score another win for him in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. But Alexander Rowe, he's going to try and fight back and get the lead.
He's losing a lot of ground out of the 88. That 88 is just considerably faster than Alexander Rowe is. Meanwhile, you mentioned Fitzwater, our pole sitter, just did not get going there, and he is currently in the 24th position behind Keegan Thompson here to the inside for 23rd. But definitely not the day Fitzwater won it after he won the pole position. But his teammate definitely figured this place out, and to the race lead he went on the number 25 of Alexander Rowe. And now Andrew Miller looking to close in for the 2nd position here, as we got ourselves 28 laps to go here at the Rockingham Speedway.
Definitely going to come down to who can conserve the more tire wear, who can possibly conserve the more fuel here. How they're gonna do all of that is definitely going to be play out into who wins this race. So, yeah.
You might want to conserve fuel in this race as well, because there is that possibility they might not be able to make it. I mean, it's feeling a lot like Atlanta right now, too. However, guys who did stay out longer than anybody else, Andrew Miller, he's in a pretty good position because he's got more fuel in the tank than Rowe and Yepes, but by only 1 lap. So we're going to have to see if that 1 lap makes a difference. Kukulon has the least amount of fuel in the tank because he came down before everybody else, so that's also going to be interesting. But how about Josh Williamson here? I think he actually is a lap down, so my apologies there. Thought he was running on the lead lap. He isn't, unfortunately, for North State Racing. But North State doing a pretty good job with their full-time guys. Well, they were. I don't know what happened to LJ Samedo. Must be up front because I can't find him anywhere. That 66 got to be somewhere. Yeah, he fell back quite a bit midway through the field. Now, he was running up front, but they do have their championship driver, Alexander Rowe. in second still, so they're getting pretty good results as of now, but he's going to lose another position. There goes Miller for second.
Third.
And that 24 looking pretty fast. He might have a shot at getting to the 88. And you got to think, too, Miller came down after Yepes and Rowe, so his tires are going to be slightly fresher than that of the 88 and the 25, and he might have an advantage on getting around the 88 here. Somebody had an issue, and explosions for the 22 of Gatlin Downey. Tough break for him right there. That's going to be the end of the day for the Hamill Racing Enterprises machine.
That's a tough break for that 22. Was running mid-pack, not a huge factor, but we did see these guys are starting to begin to catch lap traffic.
And there we go.
Like
Miller to the inside. Great run on Yepes. He's going to take it away. And that slightly fresher tire for Andrew Miller is going to propel him to the race lead. So the opposite strategy worked this year. He came down after everybody else, but he ended up with the race lead. You never know how it's going to work out here at the Rock, but Miller with a great strategy. He's got those fresh tires, and he's starting to pull away now from Diego Yepes, our fourth different leader of this race. Andrew Miller going for his second career Chick-fil-A Cup Series race victory.
Don't give it to him yet. Still have many, many laps to go in this race.
We still have the possibility of a caution. We saw a car blow up. They could do that on the racing surface. If they stop, then that brings out a yellow. They're definitely going to catch lap traffic at this rate. So, don't count out the 24 yet. Don't count out the 88 or even the 25 yet. Or heck, don't even count out Bradley Ream out of this shindig.
Yeah, I mean, he's running third now. And Rowe is not as fast as he was when he was dominating this race. Now down the fourth for the number 25. Nathan Faden, the next guy in line. He got around Kukulon pretty well. Still a good result for Kukulon. He was much deeper in the field than he is right now, and he gained a lot of ground on the rest of the field there. Wyatt Quayle, I mean, he's come out of nowhere to crack inside the top 10, currently running in the 8th position, looking to back up that strong run he had at Bristol at race victory, and Brad Stover still inside the top 10 as well. Eli Bright rounding out the top 10 for Full Frontal Motorsports. Great run for those guys, and there's Cody still in the 37, just outside the top 10 in the 37 machine. And 12th position, Mitchell Henderson in the 47, the 7 of Fisher G, then Cameron Garlington, Ace Garcia, Sam Askin fell back quite a bit there after that cycle. You see the damage to his race car, he hit the outside wall at some point. Bubbo Jones in the 08, Turkey Hill Hot Seat driver there for Alan A. Dale Racing, carrying the team right there. 35 of Thomas Troxel, Jesse Turner, Mark Davidson going after it, just inside the top 20. Then you got Brett Sierra just inside the top 20 now as he's getting around Mark Davidson for the 20th position. Fitzwater, a pole sitter deep in the field after the whole cycle ended right there. But a lot of these guys still on each other. And like I mentioned, if one guy makes a mistake, it could be a wreck. And that caution would definitely work out for some guys, but for others it might not. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out here. Lap 62 of 79, this was the traditional final lap of the race. This would have been the last lap if it was last year, but it's not last year anymore. It's a much worse year. But either way, we are coming to now 17 laps to go as they cross the line this time by for Andrew Miller in the Cheerwine 400.
It hasn't been a terrible year in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. Definitely been a lot of good racing, interesting racing.
Yeah, we're going to have an interesting race for the race lead. Yepes closing back in on Miller for the top position. He might get a run entering 3.
Bradley Ream is just there praying these guys just keep dogfighting and going side by side. And so he can try and get up into this battle. So I think at this rate we have a 3-car battle for the lead between Miller, Yepes, and Ream. P4 of Rowe, I think he's pretty much out of it.
Yeah, he's not P4 anymore. There goes Faden to the inside. So Rowe is not holding on to it as well as he was earlier on. Tough break for him, but he'll still get a good run out of this one, which is what counts in the championship. But Miller able to fend off Yepes for now, but Bradley Ream's looking pretty strong in that number 40 machine. He's closed in very nicely here in this second green flag run.
I think I heard Jonathan begin to say something, but I think there's the lap traffic. There's a 75 of Dalio. So
79 of Daniel McMillan, actually. He was involved in that wreck. And I think he's significantly going slower. He's a lap down already, going about 2 laps down here soon as Miller's closing in pretty quickly on him. It's going to be interesting to see how these guys get around him because he's not going super slow, but he's obviously slower than the race leader, so it's going to be interesting to see how they maneuver around that 79 machine. But Miller, he's pulling away from Yepes right now. That's what you got to do. Ream in the 3rd position, Faden and Rowe rounding out the top 5. They're all separated by quite a bit at this moment, but I think the big question is, will they have enough gas to make it to the end? This is a place where you can save fuel. They might be wanting to do that right now if they can, as we only have 13 laps left here in the Cheerwine 400.
I believe this race will not be decided on fuel strategy. I think it's going to be ran to the end. It's going to be a concern how Miller is going to get around the McMillan here. Do you think it's a possibility McMillan could be nice and drive up the track for him, or?
I don't know. McMillan's had a tough season. He's not feeling too well about this year. He might want to rough him up a little bit. Meanwhile, you got Bradley Ream closing on the back bumper of Yepes, going to try to make a move on the outside, and you know what? He actually might make the pass on the outside lane. And that's what can happen when you get these worn tires, but that's going to really hurt their chances of catching up to Miller. They're really going to have to hope that that 79 holds up to 24 by a lot, but you can tell the tire wear is coming into effect. These guys going much slower than they were earlier on, and that's making it a lot harder for these guys to close in to Andrew Miller in the 24.
Yeah, Ream had to let out of the gas a lot there unless he was going to make contact with the 88 and he lost his run. But I think Ream was like, if I'm not going to win, I might as well get second, trying to claw my way back towards the points lead. So I guess he's just going to try and go for every position at this point. That's exactly what Andrew Miller wants to see out of his rearview mirror. But he still has a 79 to contend with. So we can see Ream, he's on that back bumper, that 88, trying to get a run on Yepes, but I think it's going to be a little bit too little, too late for these guys, and I think if nothing catastrophic happens to Andrew Miller, I think he's got this race in the bag.
Yeah, we only got ourselves 9 laps to go here in the Cheerwine 400 for Andrew Miller. And I don't even know if he'll catch up to McMillan before the end of the race. He's been marginally gaining on him, but not enough to affect him, I don't think. Ream's going to try again on Yepes, but Yepes will shut the door on him right there. Meanwhile, I might want to watch out for Nathan Faden. Just a great run for this guy in this race. Started a lot deeper in the field than what he initially is running right now. And currently inside the top 5 with Alexander Rowe, who was the dominant guy before the cycle of pit stops. Currently running in the 5th position. You got Kukulon, Ryan Durrani. Really haven't talked about Durrani too much in this race. A really quiet day for him, but he's inside the top 10. Wyatt Quayle. Then Brad Stover and Mitchell Henderson rounding out the top 10 here at the Rock. Williamson a lap down in the 67, unfortunately. But you see these guys in their little bundle. And everyone back in here stuck behind Jesse Turner. That seems like the 77 is holding up these guys almost, but they've just been that close this entire race. And I'm surprised with the way these guys are racing that they haven't wrecked. I mean, they've been all over the place here. But still, no problem for them. And, I mean, we're closing in on the time. If we get a wreck and the caution comes out, that'll end the race early. So, these guys don't want that to happen. But Miller, he will close in on McMillan. That is for sure. We'll have to see how this affects the 24 and his shot after this race victory. But he's 2.5 seconds ahead now of Diego Yepes. Now pulling away from the rest of the field here in the Cheerwine 400.
I don't think that McMillan's going to hold him up too much. He's, like you said, he's slow enough to be a lap car, but he's not slow enough to absolutely be used as a pick for these guys. I think Andrew Miller is having a little bit of trouble going around that 79. I think they're going to both wash up the racetrack right here. Oh, no. Oh, he's getting blocked by that 79.
Yeah, McMillan's not letting him by right here.
Must be salty about the wreck earlier.
And, Yepes closed in a little bit there by 2.5, or should I say not by 2.5, but from 2.5 to 2.2, and he could not get around him. That's going to be a major factor. He lost a lot of time on that lap. Yepes, we'll have to see what the difference is this time around. It is 1.74. He gained a half a second that lap. The only thing is there's only 5 laps to go. Actually, excuse me, 4 laps to go. They're now coming to 3 laps to go. What am I doing? I can't do math. They're coming to 3 laps to go this time by. And Andrew Miller still has not gotten around McMillan for the race lead. Yepes has to fend off Ream. If Ream goes to the inside, that's going to seal it, and there goes the 40.
I think that's going to do it, so as long as the 24 doesn't blow an engine or anything.
And they lost a lot of time that last lap.
Oh, yeah.
A ton of time, and Miller will finally get around McMillan. Only thing is, you gotta have enough fuel. Ickwan Haslam was the first guy to come down. He's yet to come down again, so with that in mind, you might want to still watch out for this, though. He's side by side with McMillan. Ream has cleared Yepes for second. I just don't think it's going to be enough time for him to close back in again, but with only 2 laps to go, that is a lot to catch up. 1.8 seconds on a race leader. But a great drive by Andrew Miller. Great pit strategy coming later than everybody else. He had those fresh tires and just drove right by Yepes and Rowe and coming to the white flag. Andrew Miller looking for his 2nd win of the season. 1 lap to go on the Cheerwine 400 for the Zidell Motorsports driver.
He's been dominant all day. He's been up in the top. But I guess Bradley Ream, he can't complain too much about a top 2nd place. It isn't the win, but it's still a lot of points. Same goes for Alexander Rowe. He's going to extend his points lead a lot. But coming off the 3rd and 4th turns, Andrew Miller and the Red Bull Chevrolet is going to win here at Rockingham.
And Miller pulling off the strategy well, a dominating performance at the end, but he had to earn it. Alexander Rowe was a dominant guy early on, couldn't hold him off, and the 2nd win of the season for Andrew Miller and Zidell Motorsports. That's going to be a fun one for those guys there, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he reacts to his 2nd win of the season. Bradley Ream will gain a few points on Alexander Rowe here today. I think he'll gain... Actually, no, he'll gain 1 point on Alexander Rowe because Rowe led the most laps in this race, and he'll get 2 bonus points. But Ream, great run for him, great run for Alexander Rowe. Those guys are going to be doing well in the point standings, but Miller, he's going to be moving up in the point standings as well with his 2nd win of the season there for Zidell Motorsports. And great drive for him here at the Rockingham Speedway and the Cheerwine 400.
Tough break for Rowe, as you mentioned. Led the most laps, ended up coming home in 5th.
Yeah, but still a great run for Alexander Rowe, and that's what's given them this points lead. A lot of these top 10, top 5 runs in the past few races. Take a look at the rest of the results right there. And Gatlin down, the only guy who failed to finish this race, had a clutch issue, and that sent him to the garage. But everybody else finished this race. Only had that one incident there with Nikolai Sykes and Daniel McMillan. And they both started, or should I say both finished deep in the field. McMillan 2 laps down, and Williamson had an issue. He finished a lap down in the 67. But everyone else, 39 guys in the lead lap in this race. Pretty calm race for Rockingham standards, but still a good one. And it came down to tire strategy. And Miller just had the slightly fresher tires at the end because it came down a lap later than the race leaders. And he was able to drive by him and take home the race victory here in the Cheerwine 400.
It's definitely an interesting race. A little bit of a backwards topsy-turvy strategy-wise than last year, as you mentioned earlier, with Miller coming down later, opposed to Stover coming down earlier in last year's race. But regardless, another Red Bull car ends up in victory lane in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series at Rockingham. So congratulations to Andrew Miller and his crew chief on top of that pit box on making the right strategy call. And win the lottery by getting his 2nd win in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series.
And Bradley Ream will finish in the 2nd position. Great run for him and Kinghart Family Racing. And Yepes with a great run as well. That's, I believe, Yepes' best finish of the season, too, there for Beast Racing. But a great race here at the Rockingham Speedway. And next week, it's Talladega. Enough said. I don't need to say anything else. That'll be noon Eastern Time next Saturday for the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. Also, the Turkey Hill Series and Hers Dash Series will be racing there. So a lot of great stuff coming next week. It's Dega. That's just all I got to say. It'll be a great one for the halfway point of the regular season in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series as well. So that'll be interesting to see how these guys maneuver and shape up the championship scenario. And speaking of the championship scenario, here are the point standings for the Chick-fil-A Cup Series after 9 races. And we will see you guys next week for the Mountain Dew Kickstart 500 from Talladega. Thank you guys so much for watching. Congratulations to Andrew Miller on his race victory. And on behalf of Jonathan Logan and Trey Wright, I will see you guys later.